You're listening to Demand and Disrupt, the podcast for information about accessibility, advocacy, and all things disability.
Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Parsley.
And I'm your co-host, Sam Moore, here in Henderson, while Kimberly is in Bowling Green. How are you, dear?
I am doing very well, Sam. How are things going in Henderson?
Oh, we're thawing out slowly but surely. We, like pretty much everybody else in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, is dealing with some the aftermath of another snowfall.
It has been a very interesting couple of weeks weather-wise here in Kentucky, hasn't it?
It sure has, because before this snow, which for me was about 4 inches, and I know for you was about 4 inches, prior to that, we were dealing with flooding.
We were dealing with flooding, and I think we want to send our thoughts and prayers and heartfelt wishes out to, I think it's 15 people so far in Kentucky have lost their lives from the floods that were just horrific in so many places. So our thoughts are with those family.
Yeah. Most of those fatalities, if not all of them, were in the eastern part of the state.
It was the poor Eastern Kentucky. I mean, they just keep getting battered, don't they?
They just can't dodge a bullet, because I know just a few years ago, 2022, I believe it was, they had the big flooding.
The big flooding, and then I think they got even some with Hurricane Helene, right?
Because you know, a lot of the mountainous areas, like in western North Carolina and East Tennessee, got that, and I think the far eastern part of Kentucky was a part of it as well.
And then now hit again. So our thoughts are certainly with those people.
We hope that Demand and Disrupt brings you good therapy while you're trying to recover.
I hope people can listen, and I hope things are improving for people in those affected areas. And here I live in, of course, Bowling Green. Flash flooding can happen anywhere. So
sure.
That's an issue. But right here in my little part of the state here in Bowling Green, I don't have any kind of aerial flooding where I am. What about you?
Aerial flooding, obviously depends on where you are. Where I'm sitting in this happy little corner of Henderson, it's not a huge deal, but it can occasionally happen. And one thing I know from having been a college student in Bowling Green for, I guess, 6 years counting grad school, you can go weeks, even months without anything huge happening weather-wise, but when it rains, it pours.
That is true.
Bowling Green.
It does. It does. They used to say, they called it the Bowling Green effect. Like storms and stuff would just go around Bowling Green. But
almost like a black hole effect.
Something like that. Yeah. But I think that those days have passed, sadly. Those days have passed. So my house sits on the side of the road my house is on. Things don't flood because it's kind of up a little bit, but on the other side of the road, there's like a sinkhole situation. And a couple of the houses just across the road did, like, the water got up to like the foundations of the house. The houses.
Oh, that's always dangerous.
Yeah.
Just goes to show there are more sinkholes in Bowling Green than just the famous one that emerged in the floor of the Corvette Museum in 2013.
Yes. Oh, was that long ago? I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah, I was in grad school at the time, and I'll never forget. It was 2013, and that was all I heard about from, of course, WBKO with the local media, because thankfully it emerged at like 5:30 in the morning when nobody was there.
Right. Just the fancy car.
There was some car damage, but that's a heck of a lot better than people damage.
Yes. It's just so weird that we had like flooding, and then there was like snow on top of the frozen, on top of the water that flooded here.
Yeah, we had, and then when that snow melts, that's going to cause flooding.
Yeah, you're right. It is. So I guess the question here is, Sam, when you're stocking up, when you know you're going to be stuck in your house for a couple days, what are the things that you have to have? What do you stock up on?
Most people tell you bread and milk, but for me, it's more like bacon, eggs, stuff like easy to prepare items like frozen pizzas. Can't ever have too many of those when the weather gets bad, because you never know how long you're going to be stranded in the house. When I was in college, I would have told you like Hormel chili. It's stuff that you could like easily heat up in the microwave.
Yeah.
Those were were crucial as well. I went through a phase where it would have been ramen noodles, but
oh yeah, ramen noodles and Pop-Tarts. That's the college diet, right?
Pop-Tarts too. Red beans and rice. I'm a big red beans and rice fan because it's so easy to prepare, and you can just put sausage in it, and you've got a meal there. So just blah blah blah. Easy to prepare stuff that's that you enjoy and that's easy to eat.
Yeah, and here it's strangely enough, bacon and eggs, same thing.
I'll see brilliant minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly. Same. I guess it's because it is easy to prepare bacon and eggs, and you can do a lot with bacon and eggs. So
plus you can do like BLTs. But bacon serves multiple purposes, and it's good for plenty of dishes.
Right. Now, you don't want my kids stuck in the house without cereal. So
cereal.
Yes.
I haven't eaten cereal in forever. Maybe I should eat more cereal. But if Ian and Sarah go for several days without cereal, they get cranky, huh?
Yeah, and they eat the terrible cereal. I mean, they eat like Reese Puffs cereal.
Like the candy type.
It's
cereal.
Candy. It's basically candy cereal, like Lucky Charms and stuff. Yeah, that's what they eat.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
That yes. So but you don't want them to be in the house without milk and
and coffee. As I take a sip of coffee now, I've got to I've got to stock up on coffee before snowstorm.
That is the number one thing. Yes, you're right, is the coffee. And because I am a grown-up, I also do make sure we have things like Tylenol in case someone, were to spike a fever.
Yes, like good thought. So, medicine, because you never know when that headache's going to pop up.
Right. So I always make sure we have the right over-the-counter medications, make sure that our prescription medications are all filled up.
Absolutely. That's a definite must.
Yeah, exactly. People with disabilities we have so much more to think about when you're talking about emergency preparedness.
There are other aspects that people without disabilities don't think about and don't necessarily have to. For one, if you're getting your groceries delivered by say Walmart, or the Kroger has a special program now where they can deliver if you live in a community where there's a Kroger, and those folks aren't necessarily going to be able to get to you if the weather's bad. So you do have to think ahead there.
You do, and we actually did that because I had to get groceries before my normal grocery getting day. I do have groceries delivered, and I had to do it a couple of days early because I appreciate those people who do go do your shopping for you and deliver, and I don't want them to be out, when it's dangerous or even when it's just pouring down rain. So I did that.
It's harder to plan for rain, but at least, when it snows, even though the forecast may not be accurate, you do have to sort of heed those warnings 2 or 3 days in advance when they have a pretty good idea that snow is coming. If that's the case and you need groceries, you might want to go ahead and order.
Yeah. And then Michael does things like for us, like he salts the steps, to
prevent slippage as much as possible when you go out there.
Right. To prevent me from falling. My balance isn't good anyway. So, there's that. I know a couple of weeks ago, we had Carissa Johnson on the show, and she was talking about how she had to put roof over her porch because when it would get slick, and it would freeze. She's a wheelchair user, so she would be up at the top of her porch, and she would just slide back down the ramp when it got slick. So she needed that, and that's something I had never even thought about.
I hadn't either. Yeah, but the roof would definitely, obviously,
yes,
it may not control the temperature, but at least it would keep out the snow and sleet and all of those types of elements. So she'd at least have a dry ramp.
Yeah. And I know there's for people who depend on things that are battery charged. It's like, I don't know anything about how that works. Like if you have you use a power chair, I guess you really worry about if the power goes out and you can't charge your batteries,
and you don't want to be without a battery. That reminds me, my dad was at UK during the historic blizzard of 1978, which I was not born yet, obviously, till 10 years later. But but I heard all kinds of stories about that. One of them, Dad used to always tell me, was he was walking between classes one day because they hardly canceled class at all. I think one day he said they canceled, but that was it. But the elements were not favorable a lot of for like a month during the blizzard of 78 because, snow just kept falling and falling before they could get it cleared off. So Dad was between classes. He saw this guy stranded in a wheelchair out in the cold, blustery conditions. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And guy in the wheelchair goes, "My battery died."
Oh no, that would be so horrible.
That is the least opportune time.
I know.
For your battery to die. And it was snowing. Of course, there was already snow everywhere. So Dad managed to assist him into the nearest building.
Oh, that's great.
Make a phone call, do what he had to do to get the battery situation resolved. But I cannot imagine being out in those conditions with a dead battery. That's just the ultimate bad luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And there's so many things you don't think about. Like, I know it's in cities when there's plowing the roads, the snow ends up on the wheelchair ramps.
Oh yeah, when they push it off to the side.
Yeah, when they push it off the side, which that's an inconvenience and a hassle for people who can just walk over it or walk around it. But for someone in a wheelchair, that's a game stopper, right?
It is a game changer because you're going to have to do way more work. You're going to have to take more of a detour, way more of a detour than most people to, navigate where you need to be around the snow.
Right. So many things that people have to think about. And so our interview today.
Another drum roll.
I know, right? People doing cool things. Like, do people doing cool things just, well, number one, it exhausts me. People who do a lot of stuff, but also it just impresses me so much. People who do these milestone things. Our interview guest today is a model. She's an actress. She is in a pre-law program, interning at a law firm. And she's written a book and she's only 23 years old.
That's it? That's all she does?
Yeah, that's done. I know, right? At 23 years old. That makes me tired. It just does. It
wears you out just hearing about her.
It does. And she was a delight to talk with. Her name is Jessica Frew. She uses something called a Tobii eye gaze camera. She'll tell us all about how that works and let us know. But I mean, just so many things. I was looking up. She's actually in a movie that you can watch on Amazon Prime. It's called Crispy.
When you're on Amazon Prime, that's how you know you're big time.
Right.
I just rhymed and didn't intend to. I'm a poet and don't know it, Kimberly. Didn't know it.
So I looked up her movie. She's also in, I believe, a TV series on Amazon Prime. So she's done lots of things. She's done some modeling, and then she wrote a children's book. Jessica is nonverbal, and she wanted, in everything she does, she wants to open people up to the possibilities, people with disabilities. And so her book is called The Nonverbal Princess. Uh-huh. And she is going to tell us all about that. I had a fascinating interview with her.
Nonverbal Princess. That is such an appropriate and catchy title for
Isn't
sure.
Isn't it though? So
yes,
now
indeed.
We will hear my interview with Jessica Frew.
Enjoy.
Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, a disability podcast. I am pleased to be joined today by Jessica Frew. Jessica is an author, an actress, a model. She's so many things, y'all. So I am going to let her tell you all about herself. Jessica, welcome to Demand and Disrupt. And so tell us about yourself.
I'm 23 years old. I have cerebral palsy and communicate with a Tobii eye gaze computer. I'm a model, actress, children's author, and full-time student majoring in pre-law and criminal justice. I was a teacher/counselor student volunteer for children and adults with disabilities in a center. I used to counsel this boy one-on-one on his behavior and train him on using the TDI series for a year and a half before I started college. In my first semester of college, I mentored a group of individuals with all types of learning, behavioral, and cognitive disabilities. Also, I'm interning at a law firm.
Wow, that is a lot. Thank you for sharing all that. So now I understand that your children's book is called The Nonverbal Princess. What made you want to write a children's book?
I wanted to write a children's book because people have treated me differently since I was young and thought I wouldn't know anything because I was nonverbal. Hence, people used to say very mean stuff right before me without realizing I could understand everything they were saying, making me feel worthless. I didn't even have the confidence to communicate with my computer in public or even with my family. I just used it for schoolwork until I found the confidence in myself. I want to teach children worldwide that people with disabilities or differences who look or act differently are humans with emotions too.
I get that. Being blind, people often think they can make hand gestures and things, to each other that like blind people don't intuit that there's a conversation going on, a non-visual conversation or a visual non-verbal conversation going on that we won't know that's happening. And it is extremely hurtful. And I am sorry that you had to go through that. You're 23. I guess I'd sort of hoped things wouldn't be that way for people younger than me, but apparently they still are. So tell me, how did the idea for the Nonverbal Princess come about?
Well, I thought what would make a kid interested in learning about disabilities. Then I thought about Disney. I thought there was a never disabled princess. So I thought, why not make a first nonverbal disabled princess in history?
Great idea. Great idea. Definitely. And we will link to the book in the show notes of the podcast. And you use an eye gaze computer to communicate. So can you tell me about that computer?
A Tobii eye gaze is a computer controlled by your eyes. And the way the Tobii eye gaze with Microsoft Surface Pro works is that an eye gaze camera tracks the person's eye movements, which then moves the mouse on a computer screen. The person selects items either by holding their eye gaze for a specific time, referred to as dwell, by blinking, or by clicking an external button. But with all of technology, sometimes it acts up and has errors. So I just need to wait or restart the computer when it is acting up.
I hear that about technology. Absolutely. It happens. It is both a blessing and a curse. And you were initially, in the bio I read of you, it said you were initially hesitant to use your communication device in public. And I'm wondering what helped you get over that hurdle?
I got my Tobii when I was 9, but I never used it to talk to anyone, not even my family. I kept my computer in my bag when I was at home. I only used it at school for schoolwork and communication with my best friend. I never used it with anyone else. Because, as I already said, people were looking at, talking about, and judging me differently during this time. I decided not to use my computer to talk to anyone outside of my family or in public. I felt really useless and not aware of myself because of other people. So much so that I didn't think I was worth enough to use my computer to talk to anyone. I regret that I never got to have a full chat with my dad on the computer before he died. It didn't matter that we had our own way of talking to each other and that we fought a lot through my eyes without using my computer. The thing I regret most in life is that I never talked to my dad on the computer. Now I'm wondering what the hell was wrong with Jessica and how I let that happen. Even on his hospital deathbed, I knew he was going to die. That would have been the perfect time to finally talk to my dad on the computer, but I didn't. It still hurts me that I didn't have the courage to talk to my dad on the computer before he died. Like how I could let other people make me feel so useless that I couldn't even use my computer to talk to my dying father. I still don't get how I let that happen. But I still didn't talk to my computer in public for a few years after that, and the way I talked to it got worse when I stopped talking to my best friend on the computer. Then, when I was 16, I continued to talk to my best friend on the computer. I began to talk to the school's helpers on my computer a little more. But not a lot, and not in public or with my family either. My best friend and I had a fight the following year. I talked to my computer a lot more with the aides and my mother a little, but that was all I did at the start of that year. As the year went on, I got better at using my computer to talk to my mother, the school's aides, and 2 close cousins. Even though I made friends online while I was at home, I still didn't talk to my computer in public. In the fall of that year, I started hanging out with someone I had known for a long time, but had never met in person. We met up in person and started to talk and hang out. Someone gave me the courage to speak in public, but that person is no longer in my life, and I never get the chance to talk to them again. But that's a story for another time. My point is that one person can make a big difference in someone else's life by being kind and treating them like a person.
That is heartbreaking, Jessica. I mean, I'm glad you ultimately did get past your hesitation. And I think that just goes to show just how much internalized ableism we all suffer from. So your bio that I found also refers to you, and as you said, as a model and an actress. Will you tell me about your work in those arenas?
Yes, I acted in a series on Amazon Prime called Surviving the Cartel and a movie on Amazon Prime as well called Crispy. I model in the Runway of Dreams for Victoria's Secret Adaptive and Tommy Adaptive. I decided to go into this industry because I want to make a difference in it for people with disabilities. When I'm reading, pre-programming my lines into my eye gaze computer, or modeling for a brand, I realize I can make a difference in the entertainment and fashion industries. There's a tiny percentage of disabled, nonverbal actors and models in the industry, and I dream of opening opportunities for other nonverbal actors with communication devices. I want to show producers we can act like every verbal actor/model in this industry, but they need to give us a chance to prove ourselves. Unfortunately, I took a break from the industry for 2 years to focus on school, but now since I'm all settled into school, I'm starting to get into the industry full speed ahead, and hopefully, I will book projects very soon.
Well, best of luck, and I will keep my fingers crossed, and we will definitely be looking out for those movies on Amazon Prime, and I will drop a link to those in the show notes. If I can find a link, we will drop a link to those in the show notes for everyone. So, what is the state of representation for people with disabilities right now?
All I can say is that media representation for people with disabilities has improved over the years, but it has a lot of improving to do before it can be considered as equal media representation, because we see less than 15% in the media and 70% is inspirational porn. Also, 60% of individuals with disabilities are victims of violence daily, but we never hear or see that in the media.
That is true. Those are stark statistics.
I benefited so much from reading people with disabilities' comments and messages about how I changed their lives on social media. It is the best feeling in the world to change people's lives. It reminds me why I work so hard to prove people with disabilities can do anything as non-disabled people.
How have you benefited from the advocacy of other people with disabilities?
I benefited so much from reading people with disabilities' comments and messages about how I changed their lives on social media. It is the best feeling in the world to change people's lives. It reminds me why I work so hard to prove people with disabilities can do anything as non-disabled people.
And how important is it for you to be an advocate for other people with disabilities?
It means the world to me to be an advocate for people with disabilities, because I can change so many people's lives as that one person did for me. Although we are not on friendly terms anymore, and I would highly dislike to give them credit. I don't know if I will be doing things or even communicating today if they didn't give the confidence and treat me as everyone else.
People come into our lives and for different reasons, don't they? There's a season for all relationships. So I am definitely grateful that that person did come into your life. Jessica, I wondered, I didn't ask you anything about your talk show, and I wondered if you wanted to writing something about that.
It's a new talk show where I interview people who have amazing story and people in the industry, but I didn't have time to focus on it as I like. Hopefully soon I will have more time to get really started.
Sounds great. Jessica, it has been wonderful talking with you, and we've only touched the surface. We didn't even talk about your adventures as a law student. So next time we'll have you on and talk about that.
Thanks so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it.
The pleasure's mine. Thanks, Jessica. Demand and Disrupt is a production of the Advocado Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living based in Louisville, Kentucky. Our executive producers are me, Kimberly Parsley, and Dave Mathis. Our sound engineer is Michael Parsley. Thanks to Chris Ankin for the use of his song, Change. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please consider leaving a review. You can find links to our email and social media in the show notes. Please reach out and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, everyone.